Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that gets really personal. Like, really personal. Today, we're going to explore the human body. But here's the twist. We're using two totally different lenses to see it.
It's like we have a Western science microscope, an ancient Chinese wisdom-looking glass.
Exactly. So we've got cutting-edge science, Andy, the ancient wisdom of Chinese inner alchemy. Think of it as two maps to the same incredible terrain.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating is that these two approaches actually complement each other. Like Western science gives us the nuts and bolts, the mechanisms, the how.
The nitty-gritty, right.
Exactly. But then inner alchemy steps in, offers insights into energy flows, the more subtle stuff that affects our well-being.
It's like having a detailed blueprint and a user manual for our bodies.
I like that. A user manual.
And our guidebook for this journey is anatomy.pdf. It's conveniently divided into sections reflecting these two approaches.
Makes sense. So where do we start?
Well, we'll start with the Western perspective to lay the groundwork. Then we'll dive into the more energetic realms of inner alchemy. Got to build a solid foundation first.
A logical approach.
Absolutely. So let's kick things off with the very foundation of life itself, DNA. You know how people say everything's connected?
Oh, yeah. I hear that a lot.
Well, get this. If you uncoiled all the DNA in your body, it would stretch 10 billion miles. That's a round trip from Earth to Pluto.
Mind-blowing, right? And what's even more amazing is that this incredibly long molecule, the famous double helix, is jam-packed into every single cell.
It's like this massive blueprint containing all the instructions that make you, well, you.
Precisely. The instruction manual we were talking about.
Right. Okay, so that was DNA. Now let's zoom out from the microscopic level and talk about something a bit more, well, solid.
Something we can actually see and touch.
Exactly. What about the skeletal system, the framework that literally holds us up?
Ah, yes. The scaffolding of the human body. But here's a little secret. People tend to think of bones as static, unchanging, right?
Yeah, kind of like, well, just bones sitting there.
But they're actually constantly remodeling themselves. They're dynamic, responding to stress, strain, everything we put on them.
It's like they have their own little construction crew working 24/7.
It is. And just like skyscrapers need a strong foundation, our bodies rely on bones for support. Think about your legs and spine. They bear the brunt of your weight every single day.
Makes sense. And when it comes to strength, I've heard the femur, that big bone in your thigh, is stronger than steel for its weight.
That's right. It's incredible. That strength is what allows it to support your entire body during movement, making walking and running possible.
Wow. Okay, I'm officially impressed with my bones. But bones can't move on their own, can they?
Nope. And that's where the muscular system struts in.
The movers and shakers.
Exactly. We have over 600 muscles, all coordinating every move we make. It's pretty incredible.
So complex. I mean, even walking, something we do every day, requires so much coordination.
It really does. Each muscle has a specific role, and they often work in pairs, one contracting while the other relaxes.
Kind of like a dance partnership.
Precisely. A constant push and pull to create smooth, controlled movement. Even standing still uses a delicate balance of muscle activation.
Who knew just standing was so much work?
And when you're out for a run, those calf muscles in your lower legs, they're the real powerhouses.
So that's why they always ache after a good workout. But what about muscle memory? Learning a skill and then suddenly it feels effortless.
That's a great question. Whether it's playing an instrument, playing basketball, even mastering that tricky yoga pose, it's all about practice.
So the more we do it, the more grooved in it gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Practice creates neural pathways that make the movements smoother, more efficient. Like you're carving a groove in your brain and muscles, and the action just flows.
Practice makes perfect, as they say. But let's shift focus to the engine room of the body, the circulatory system. With the heart at its center, pumping blood through a network of vessels that, if laid end to end, would stretch for over 60,000 miles.
Our own personal circulatory superhighway.
It's mind-boggling.
And the heart, it works tirelessly, sending blood on two separate journeys. One to deliver fresh oxygen to every single cell, and another to send blood to the lungs to pick up more oxygen.
It's a two-for-one deal, and we rarely even think about it.
This keeps on chugging.
Makes you appreciate the simple act of breathing. But speaking of breathing, let's talk about the respiratory system, the lungs, and everything involved in taking in oxygen and getting rid of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, the body's own ventilation system.
With every breath we take, our diaphragm, that big dome-shaped muscle, contracts, pulling air into the lungs. And as we exhale, it relaxes, pushing air back out.
It's like a bellows, constantly refreshing, revitalizing our internal environment.
And the real magic happens in these tiny air sacs in the lungs, the alveoli.
That's where the gas exchange takes place. Oxygen from the air goes into the bloodstream, and carbon dioxide from the blood goes into the alveoli to be exhaled.
It's pretty mind-blowing how effortlessly we breathe. But all this activity, our beating heart, expanding lungs, requires some serious communication to keep things running smoothly. And that's where the nervous system comes in, right?
Absolutely. The nervous system is like a high-speed information network. Messages from the brain, the command center, to every corner of your body.
It's like the internet of the body.
And at the heart of the system are neurons, specialized cells that transmit messages at incredible speeds, up to 200 miles per hour.
Oh, that's faster than a race car.
It is. It's a fascinating combination of electrical and chemical signals. Neurons have these long extensions called axons that carry electrical impulses.
So the electrical impulse travels down the axon like a wire.
Yeah, like a wire. And when it reaches the end, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters. Those are chemical messengers that travel across the gap, the synapse, to the next neuron.
So it's like a relay race, with electrical and chemical signals passing the baton.
A very apt analogy. And this incredible network lets us sense the world, control our movements, even think and feel.
The foundation of our conscious experience. Amazing. But all this activity requires fuel, right?
Of course. Let's move on to the digestive system. This is where the body breaks down food into usable nutrients.
It's like the body's personal kitchen and pantry all rolled into one.
It all starts in the mouth, where chewing and saliva start breaking down food into smaller bits. Then it travels down the esophagus to the stomach, where a churning, acidic environment takes over.
Our stomachs are like these powerful mixers, huh?
Powerful is an understatement, and then the journey continues into the small intestine. This is where most of the nutrient absorption happens.
And the small intestine is what, like 20 feet long or something?
Even longer. To maximize absorption, it has an enormous surface area, thanks to these tiny, finger-like projections called villi. All those villi increase the surface area to the size of a tennis court.
Wow. A tennis court. That's incredible. So that's where all the good stuff gets sucked into the bloodstream. What happens to all the stuff our bodies can't use?
That's where the large intestine steps in, absorbs water from the remaining waste, forms it into, well, you know.
Right, the end product.
It's fascinating how even waste management is a complex process. The large intestine is home to all kinds of bacteria that are actually crucial for our health.
So even what we might consider waste has a purpose.
Everything has a purpose. But before we move on to inner alchemy, we can't forget about the immune system, the amazing defense system that protects us from all sorts of threats.
It's like an army of microscopic warriors, always on guard.
It is a multi-layered system. First, you have the physical barriers like skin and mucous membranes.
Like the walls and moats of a castle.
Exactly. And then we have specialized cells, like white blood cells that patrol the body, identifying and destroying those nasty pathogens like bacteria and viruses.
So they're like the soldiers on patrol. It's amazing how our bodies have so many lines of defense.
And what's really cool is that our bodies have this ability to remember past encounters with pathogens. So the next time that same invader shows up, bam, the immune system knows exactly what to do.
It's like they've got a photographic memory for invaders.
Exactly. That's the principle behind vaccinations, you know? Exposing the immune system to weakened pathogens so it can develop those memory cells.
So vaccines are like boot camp for the immune system.
That's a good way to put it. Training them to be stronger, more resilient.
Well, I have to say, we've covered a lot of ground here. The human body really is an incredible machine.
It is an incredible machine.
But now it's time to shift gears. From the nuts and bolts of Western science to the more subtle, energetic world of Chinese inner alchemy.
Ready for a change of scenery.
Absolutely. I'm ready to see what this other map reveals. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but I am still processing all that incredible information about the human body we just went through.
The body really is an amazing machine, isn't it?
Absolutely. But now we're shifting gears, moving from, like, the nuts and bolts of Western science to something a little more subtle.
A bit more mysterious, perhaps.
The energetic world of Chinese inner alchemy. It's a big shift in perspective.
Absolutely. While Western science focuses on those physical structures, you know, like the organs and systems, inner alchemy explores the energy flows that animate us, the vital force that connects, well, everything.
So we're talking about energy like Literally.
We are. In inner alchemy, it's called ki, and it's seen as the fundamental life force that flows through everything, animates us, keeps us going.
Okay, so ki is not something we can see or touch, but we can feel its effects.
Exactly. When our ki is flowing freely, we feel energized, vibrant, healthy. But when it's blocked or depleted, that's when we experience fatigue, illness, even emotional imbalances.
That makes sense. I definitely felt those times when my energy is just like stagnant.
And just like we can clear blockages in a river, inner alchemy offers practices to cultivate and balance qi.
So optimizing the energy flow within the body.
Precisely. And one of the most well-known practices for that is Qigong.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Qigong, but I've always pictured it as something like only super flexible people can do.
Not at all. There are many different styles of Qigong. Some are very gentle and accessible. The key is finding a teacher in a style that resonates with you.
So it's not about twisting yourself into a pretzel.
Not necessarily. It's about cultivating awareness of your internal energy and then using movement and breath to guide it. Encourage a smooth and balanced flow.
That sounds amazing, actually.
Mhm.
But Qigong isn't the only way to work with Qi, is it?
Nope, not at all. The breath is incredibly important in inner alchemy as well.
Right, breathing.
Taoist breathing exercises often focus on deep, slow, rhythmic breathing. This helps calm the mind, nourish the body, and cultivate qi.
You know, I've noticed that when I'm stressed, taking a few deep breaths really does help.
Absolutely. Deep breathing not only increases oxygen intake, but it also helps regulate the nervous system, reduces stress hormones, and promotes a sense of calm and well-being.
So those deep breaths I take are actually a simple way to work with my Qi. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've talked about cultivating and balancing Qi, but I'm curious about this concept of yin and yang. I know it's a fundamental principle in Taoist philosophy, but how does it relate to our health?
Well, yin and yang represent the two fundamental forces that make up all phenomena in the universe.
Everything.
Everything. Yin is often associated with qualities like femininity, receptivity, coolness, stillness.
And yang.
Yang is more about masculinity, activity, warmth, expansion. It's important to remember, though, neither is inherently good or bad. They're complementary forces that need to be in balance for harmony.
So it's not about being all yin or all yang, but finding that sweet spot, that balance between the two.
Exactly. And this principle is reflected everywhere in the body. Our organs are seen as having yin and yang aspects. Even our daily rhythms reflect this interplay.
So activity and rest, waking and sleeping, these all reflect the balance of yin and yang.
They do. And if we want to be healthy, we need to find that balance within ourselves.
So how can we do that? What does that look like in everyday life?
It's about listening to your body and making choices that support balance. If you've been pushing yourself hard, feeling burned out, that's a sign you might need more yin energy. Activities like gentle yoga, meditation, or spending time in nature can help restore balance.
So if I'm feeling super stressed, a walk in the park is actually beneficial from an energetic perspective.
It can be. And on the other hand, if you've been feeling sluggish, unmotivated, a bit more yang energy might be needed, maybe some physical activity, upbeat music, or time with friends.
It's fascinating how ancient wisdom like this can offer such a nuanced approach to health.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything within us and around us.
This is also interesting. Okay, so we've got Qi, we've got yin and yang, and now I'm wondering about the 5 elements. You know, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. How do those fit into the picture?
The 5 elements are another framework for understanding energy and its manifestations. Each element is associated with specific organs, emotions, seasons, even tastes. It's a way of understanding the interconnectedness and cyclical nature of energy.
Wait, tastes? You mean what we eat can influence the balance of the 5 elements in our bodies?
Exactly. Food is seen as medicine in inner alchemy, and each flavor is believed to have specific energetic qualities. For example, sour flavors are associated with the wood element, which corresponds to the liver and gallbladder.
So if I eat a lot of lemons, I'm boosting my wood energy.
In a way, yes, and salty flavors are linked to the water element, which governs the kidneys and bladder. It's all about understanding these connections and making choices that support our overall balance.
It's incredible how complex this all is.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to keep all these elements in balance seems like, well, a lot.
It can feel overwhelming at first, but remember, inner alchemy is a journey, not a destination.
So it's not about rigidly following rules, but about paying attention to how different foods make me feel.
Precisely. Noticing how certain foods affect your energy levels, mood, your overall sense of well-being.
It's about tuning into those subtle cues our bodies are giving us.
Exactly. And by paying attention to these cues, we can make choices that support our balance and vitality.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about working with our bodies, not against them.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach that recognizes the wisdom of the body and seeks to support its natural healing abilities.
With all this talk of energy flow, balance, the five elements, I can't help but think about the elixir of immortality that's often mentioned in relation to inner alchemy. Is that something we should be striving for?
Ah, the elixir of immortality. It's a fascinating concept, often misunderstood. You see, it's not about a literal substance that grants eternal life. It's more of a metaphor for spiritual transcendence.
So achieving a state of wholeness and liberation from the limitations of the physical body.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a deep connection to our inner wisdom and allowing our true essence to shine through.
Wow, that's beautiful. We've covered so much ground today, from the intricate workings of our physical bodies to the subtle energies that influence our well-being. It's been quite the journey.
It really has, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what it means to be human.
There's always more to discover, right? But for now, let's pause and let all this information sink in. We've explored two very different perspectives on the human body.
Two different maps to the same terrain.
And in our final segment, we'll bring these two perspectives together, exploring how we can blend the best of Western science and inner alchemy to enhance our health and live more vibrant lives. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the human body. We've explored our physical selves through the lens of Western science, and indeed delved into those subtle energies through Chinese inner alchemy. Now, the big question is, how can we bring these two worlds together? Can we actually blend Western science and inner alchemy to live healthier, more vibrant lives? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And one that more and more people are asking as they seek a more holistic approach to well-being. And I think the answer is a resounding yes. What's exciting is the potential synergy between these two approaches.
So it's not about choosing one over the other, but finding ways to integrate them, like using the best of both worlds.
Exactly. Think of a gardener tending to their plants. Western science might provide the tools and techniques to address pests or diseases, but
But inner alchemy would be more about creating the right conditions for growth.
exactly. Enriching the soil, enough sunlight and water, fostering a harmonious environment for those plants to thrive.
That's a perfect analogy. So
Really?
Western medicine helps us fight the battles, while inner alchemy helps us win the war by strengthening our overall resilience.
Well said. And there are real-world examples of this integration in action. Take acupuncture, for instance. It's an ancient Chinese practice that's becoming more popular in the West.
Right, I've heard of that.
Often used alongside conventional treatments for pain management, stress reduction, even to help recovery from surgery.
So we're actually seeing a merging of these two approaches, even within the medical community.
We are. And the same principle applies to other areas of health, nutrition, for instance. We can combine the insights of Western science about calories, macronutrients, all that good stuff, with the energetic understanding of foods from inner alchemy.
So we create a diet that not only provides the building blocks, but also supports our overall balance and vitality.
That's the idea. It's about moving beyond just a purely mechanistic view of the body and recognizing that subtle interplay of energy and food.
This is really making me rethink how I view food. It's not just fuel, it's energy.
Exactly. And I think one of the most profound insights that emerges from this integration is that our minds and bodies are not separate. They're two sides of the same coin.
The mind-body connection.
Precisely. What we think, what we feel, it can really impact our physical health. Western science is increasingly acknowledging this too. There's growing research on the impact of stress.
But it's a concept that's been at the heart of inner alchemy for centuries.
Exactly. Practices like meditation, they cultivate a calm and focused mind, and that can have real benefits for our physical bodies.
So those moments of stillness and mindfulness, they're not just about feeling good in the moment.
No, they're not. They can lead to lasting changes in our physical health by calming the nervous system, reducing stress hormones, promoting inner peace. Things like meditation can support everything from our cardiovascular system to immune function.
Wow. It's amazing how these seemingly separate worlds are converging,
They really are.
offering a much more integrated understanding of ourselves as whole beings,
Absolutely. And I think that's what this whole deep dive has been about.
exploring this incredible miracle that is the human body.
Starting from the microscopic level of DNA to the vast energetic flows that influence our well-being.
I feel like I've learned so much,
Mm.
and I definitely have a renewed appreciation for this amazing vessel we call home.
And as we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with this thought. What if we viewed our bodies not just as machines, but as dynamic ecosystems, constantly interacting with energy and the environment?
That's a powerful image.
How might that shift in perspective change our approach to health and well-being? Something to ponder, isn't it?
It really is. It reminds us that there's always more to discover, more to learn about ourselves and that incredible world within. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the human body.